Good afternoon, everyone. Can everyone hear me good? Yes? First off, I want to just say congratulations to Megan for such an amazing achievement of getting this up and running. Isn't this a fantastic event? Yeah? So Megan asked me to talk a little bit about physical health today. So I was like, what should I talk about? When we talk about physical health, a lot of times we think about our body, we think about our image, and I thought, let's talk about physical health in a little bit of a different way. Let's talk about it through a different lens. So what I want to talk about is that when we think about physical health, we often think about, like I said, our bodies, but how much do we think about our brain? To me, the brain is the most important organ of the body, and we need to do a lot more self-care for our brains. So I'm going to talk for the next 10 minutes or so about brain health. So I'm going to share with you 6 quick tips on how to improve your brain health. So this includes physical activity, stress management, sleep, nutrition, and then social relationships. So I have a really great secret to tell you guys. So there's something that I know that can help you fight cancer, lose weight, improve your mood, improve your overall wellness and quality of life. Does anyone know what this could possibly be? Actually, it's physical activity. So we're going to talk a little bit about physical activity. So I know, she went there. We're going to talk about exercise. Yeah, it's physical health. We got to talk about exercise. So if you look at this picture here, what I have is 2 brain scans. So one brain scan is of your brain at rest, and the other is of your brain with physical activity. So for those that are not familiar with neurology of the brain, what you want for a healthy brain is to really activate all the different parts of your brain. So when you look at a scan, the more lights and colors that you see, the better, because then you're having more interaction with your neurons and you're helping your brain actually grow. And so physical activity, when we think about it, there's 4 categories of physical activity. There's aerobic activity, there's strength training, flexibility, and then balance. And so with aerobic activity, most of us think about, okay, it's good for your cardiovascular health, it helps you lose weight, but did you know that it actually fosters growth of your brain cells? So when you're going on that jog, not only are you sort of slimming yourself down, making your heart stronger, you're actually regenerating your brain cells. So that's one thing to think about when you're doing that aerobic activity. Strength training isn't just for bodybuilders, okay? And it's not also just for us to have more lean muscle. It actually helps with the concentration of your brain as well. And it's been proven that it can help existing brain cells grow. And then also it helps with decision-making capacity. So the next time you're stuck on something and you're like, I have to make a really big decision, just take those weights out and start, pumping the iron a little bit. It might help you make a better decision. The other thing is flexibility. And as we age, flexibility tends to decline. But the thing about flexibility, what it does, it helps you with posture, it helps you with balance, but it also helps the parts of the brain that improve mood. So surprisingly, that's why a lot of people who do yoga afterwards, they feel so much better. You feel more refreshed. It boosts those endorphins in your brain. And then balance. I think this was the most interesting piece of research that I found. So when we think of balance, people who try to improve their balance, they think it's good to prevent falls and things like that. And most people don't actually do balance training until they're much older. I challenge you to start doing balance training from the beginning. You see like your 1-year-old trying to balance and learn how to walk. The thing about balance that's so important for the brain is that balance, when you are improving your balance for brain health, what actually happens is that you're able to not only boost your endorphins, but you're actually using the vestibular part of your brain, which is the part of the brain that's proven for balance. But the interesting thing about the vestibular part of the brain, it connects to your hippocampus. It's a direct neuronal pathway. So what that means is your hippocampus is your area for memory and cognition. So if you're doing balance training, you're actually helping yourself improve your cognition and also your memory. There was a study done in Germany, and they had 45 people that did different types of exercise. So they had a group that did aerobic exercise, a group that just did stretching, and they had a group that did balance exercise. And the group that did balance exercise ended up having better with word recall and actually doing better overall with cognition. They had a cognition exam. So that was just doing balance activities. So when you think about your brain health and you think about physical activity, think about those different categories: aerobic activity, strength training, flexibility, and balance. So now the second pillar we want to talk about is stress management. So most of us, I mean, we're all here. We all know that we all have stress. And as Megan said, the most important part about stress is how you manage it. Do you let your stress run you, or are you able to manage your stress? And we know, most of us in the room here, that when you do have chronic stress that is constantly coming at you, it increases your glucocorticoids. And what that means then is that glucocorticoids, which is like a stress hormone, it actually starts filtering into your brain and causes actual negative changes to your brain. And that's the hippocampus part of the brain. So when you start having changes, cellular changes to your brain due to your stress, so due to inadequate sleep or due to poor nutrition or just poor relationships, you start having problems with attention and perception and word finding. I mean, it's like a serious thing. So it's really important that we all learn to manage our stress. One thing I wanted to bring up, I mean, we can all talk to Megan about how to manage our stress better, so I don't have to go into all the details about that. That's what this institute is for, yeah? But one thing I wanted to bring up is when you think about how do you manage your stress better, one thing that's really helped me is learning when to say no, and also learning when to say yes. So when I say learning when to say no, it's not just about no for work activities or family activities, et cetera, but how many of you have a personal mission statement or vision statement that guides your life? You know, like your own personal mission and vision statement. We have it for work, we have it for many other things, but for yourself. So for me, the three things that I always think about before I say yes or no is, the first thing is, does it provide me an opportunity to grow and learn? If it does, then maybe I'll do it. If it doesn't, then I'm probably gonna say no. Does it allow me to be creative? And if it does, then I may say yes. And if it doesn't, I'll probably say no. And then also, does it fit with my personal purpose? And for me, my purpose is related around service. And so if I have the opportunity to follow my purpose with what is being asked, then most likely I'll say yes. And if not, I'll say no. So I invite you guys to kind of think of your own personal vision and mission and what works with you when you say yes and no to things. There's so many other things you can do for stress management, but I will kind of bypass that, as most of us here know that and can learn it through the Institute. So this is one of my favorite slides, because now we're talking about nutrition and eating and yummy things. So oily fish is very good for the brain because of the omega-3. So does anyone here take omega-3 supplements? Yeah, people eat fish. So the reason why people say omega-3 is so good for you is that it increases your blood flow. So a lot of people say for cardiovascular health, for your heart to have omega-3, it also helps the brain, because the more blood flow you have, the better it is that your brain is able to get to the different parts that activate and actually help it grow. It also helps with cognition. So omega-3, you can get that from supplements, you can get that from oily fish, and many other things. Antioxidants. You know, we always hear about, oh, this is an antioxidant, it's good, it gets rid of free radicals. So most of the berries, but blueberries are extremely powerful as an antioxidant. So what the antioxidant does for the brain, it actually improves the communication between the cells. So it's like your right side of your brain needs to have pathways that go to the left to help you learn better, work better, et cetera. So that's what antioxidants do. And they also decrease inflammation. So the other one up there is pumpkin seeds. And I love pumpkin seeds, especially on avocado toast. So pumpkin seeds also have a good amount of omega-3, so we talked about that already, but it also has a high amount of zinc. And zinc is really important for protein synthesis of the brain. So building the good, healthy proteins in the brain, that's from zinc. And also, pumpkin seeds help with your sensory function. So if you have a friend or someone who's a diabetic and they're having problems with their senses, like getting numbness and tingling and stuff, that pumpkin seeds can help with that. And then my favorite is chocolate. So, okay, now I gotta give the caveat to chocolate. So we're not talking about all chocolates, and my favorite chocolate is actually not on there, which is milk chocolate. So the best chocolate is actually, most of us know, is dark chocolate. But what is dark chocolate? It's really anything over 80% that has 80% of cocoa. So the 70s, the 60s, all of those things that you see on Lindt, Those are great to eat, but they're not going to give you the benefits to the brain. It really is 80 to 85% or higher of the cocoa that's good for you in terms of chocolate. And the reason why it's good for you is because it has flavonols. Flavonols is also found in red wine. And the reason why flavonols are so good is that they reduce free radicals in the brain as well. So many people who have Alzheimer's, they have the building of the tau protein. And so those are what is combated with flavonols. So that's a really important thing. The other thing is that magnesium is found in chocolate, surprisingly. And the thing about, how many times have you had a piece of chocolate and your anxiety kind of went down and you just felt less irritable? It's because it contains magnesium, and that's what magnesium does. It helps the endorphin part of the brain, especially anxiety. So having a lot of people will tell you, your doctors may tell you to have magnesium supplements. It actually helps not only with muscle growth and muscle fatigue, but it also helps in addition to irritability and anxiety. And then lastly on here, I have avocados. And some doctors will say, avocados are high in cholesterol and has a lot of fat, but it has the good cholesterol and the good fat, and it's found to actually lower your blood pressure, which is also good for brain health, but it also increases blood flow. So foods that increase blood flow are really important for your overall health. And so I invite you guys to have some of this. I think we have some dark chocolate out there, don't we? Okay. All right, and then sleep, the one that you guys all thought was like the winner. It is very important. So this is a scan of the brain. And again, I had spoken about when you look at a brain scan, you want to see the more that lights up, the better. So this is inadequate sleep. On one side, you don't see as much highlighting. And then this is with adequate sleep. Now, the question is, how much sleep is adequate? Let's hear some numbers. You said 7 to 9, 7 to 8, 6 to 8. Everyone says different numbers. Nobody knows. So scientifically, according to the Academia of American Academy of Family Physicians, it is 7 to 8 hours of sleep. Now, most of us will say, I can get away with 4 or 5, or as long as it's consistent, I should be fine. But what the research shows is that, let's say you're like, okay, I get 5 hours of sleep every night, but it's consistent, so I don't feel tired. But what the research shows is that if you have 4 to 5 hours of sleep 5 days a week, it's equivalent to not sleeping for 24 hours. So that's like when I was in residency and I was on call for 30 hours, that was equivalent to me sleeping every day for 5 hours, which is also equivalent to a blood alcohol level of 0.1%, which is also equivalent to having 5 shots of alcohol. So if you think about how you behave after 5 shots of alcohol, it's probably not the best thing for you. So keep that in mind. So then now some of you might think, okay, just like your hashtag not thriving well, what do I do if I've got like a big deadline or like I went out for a night? I'm not gonna always get this 7 to 8 hours of sleep or 8, 9, whatever it is. So a lot of people have adopted napping, okay? And napping is good, but most of us do napping wrong. So I'm gonna give you a tip about how to nap properly. So what we want to do is that we don't want to go into that deep sleep of REM. If you do, you're going to wake up groggier, you're going to wake up more irritable, you're going to be more tired. So does anyone know how long you should nap for? Oh, what'd you say? 10? Yes, correct. Yay! Yes, I know. So it's actually 10 minutes. So now you're going to think, who naps for 10 minutes, right? Like, who does that? It takes me 10 minutes just to fall asleep. But the actual sleep time should be about 10 minutes. So in general, it's 20 minutes for napping. So like by the time you get in bed and fall asleep, you're sleeping for 10 minutes and you get up. So you don't want to nap any longer than 20 minutes. And if you do, it's more likely going to interrupt your sleep pattern and cause more issues. The other thing with sleep that's really important is that when you are sleeping, that's when your brain regenerates. And that's actually when the toxins are removed from your brain. If you don't sleep enough, you actually end up taking out the healthy part of the brain as well. So you've got certain neurotransmitters in the brain that come and kind of clean things out. Your astrocytes, for anyone that remembers back in school biology, they come and kind of clean things out. They're like the Roomba, the vacuum cleaner that automatically goes while you're sleeping. And then what happens is that if you don't sleep enough, it gets confused and it starts attacking the healthy cells too. So long periods of time of not sleeping well, you have a higher chance of getting dementia and more cognitive issues. So sleep is really important. All right, we're almost done. So the last part is social relationships. And I'm so happy that Betty Priscorn's here today. She actually did a podcast with me on loneliness that you guys can listen to. But what we've found in society, most of us know it's like, okay, we all have our iPhones, we are all on social media, we have 1,000 friends on Facebook. We should have better social relationships, right? But the research is finding that we don't. And that the reason why is that the relationships are not deep enough. So you could have 1,000 friends and like someone's post and maybe say, congratulations on, whatever, and happy birthday, but you're not really having a deep conversation. And so that's the important part of having social relationships. And think about how many times you go out with your friends and you're all just, how are you? Oh, good, how's it going? And it's all small talk. And how often do you really get into like deep conversations? Maybe once or twice with your really good best friend or your spouse. Think about dinner with your family. How often is everyone on their phone or just, one person's doing one thing, another person's off doing something else? So one thing you can do, I challenge you, is when you go out to dinner, or if you have dinner at home, have everyone put their phones in the middle of the table. And the first person that grabs their phone has to pay for dinner or has to do the dishes. And then that way it kind of forces you to have more conversation with each other than just, oh, here, let me show you this on my phone. Oh, let me show you, oh, did you remember that? Oh, let me look it up. Everything is like, let me look at my phone, and we're not talking to each other. And one stat I wanted to bring up, which is up here, is that being lonely is equivalent to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. This research was done in the UK. The UK has actually put a minister of loneliness as part of their cabinet because this is such a rampant problem. And I just want to bring up that loneliness doesn't mean that you're alone. You could be married and be lonely. You could have a group of friends. You could be in a college dorm, and you could still feel lonely. So it's that perception of feeling lonely that's so detrimental. Causes issues with heart disease, causes issues with neurocognitive function and decline. And again, those that tend to be more lonely have a higher incidence of getting Alzheimer's disease or dementia. So I went really, really fast on all those things. So what I wanted to just bring up, the one last piece, is it's not part of the 6 pillars, but there was some scans done of the brain of people who are in nature. And what they found was they had the regions of the brain for stability, empathy, and love were highlighted and activated. So I encourage all of you to really experience life. Go out there, be part of nature, enjoy, and like Megan said, self-care is so important, and don't forget about your brain health. That's all I have.